Hello and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, live show number 547. I am your host, Lauren Gray. Thank you so much for joining on this absolutely wonderful January. Of course, right now, I think in the continental United States, there is a bit of a weather concern coming across most of the country domestically, which is always, strangely enough, we talk in series of shows and so forth. Next week's show is going to be a lot about choice of time of travel for flight and plans and windows of opportunity, Goldilocks windows to fly and so forth, and how that has a relevancy to our marketing strategy. But that's next week. This week is a little bit of a continuance of what we discussed last week, going backwards in time for a moment. Last week we talked about do less, more better, which was talking about not being too overtly creative, too many diversifications of things and so forth, to try to get in front of your potential audience or your guests, and you throw all these ideas around that you hope are creatively unique and valuable, but a lot of times they can create a clutter of things from being more stalwart as to doing the things that are producing. So in continues to that, our conversation this week is a little bit of an expansion of that, kind of going with the theme that listening before, quote, talking, which is the thought of, well, what is it that your guests or your potential guests, the customers, are watching, following, engaging with, rather than coming out talking, coming out listening. So the question today, the topic today is, what is your first ad message? January of 2026. What is your lead ad that you put out? Okay. Is it a brand ad or is it a purchase ad? So that's our topic. What is your first ad message, brand or purchase? There is a third alternative to this. We'll discuss it as a variance to kind of what brand is in per se, but a lot of listening before talking comes to the idea of putting in front of your guests what it is that they are wanting to engage with. Where are they in their mind cycle as to what it is that they want? What are they planning for? What are they interested in? How are you relevant to all of those dialogues? Now, we have, of course, even more variations to approaching our guests than we've had in times past, of course, with AI and generative search discovery, answer boxes, AEO, getting into the query solution process with people looking for and discovering things. And they all have their variations. We've had shows on all the concepts of each of those in particular granularity, and we'll continue to have them because they constantly evolve. And there will always be some new thing to it that we didn't have in our discussion earlier that we will have in a future discussion. Answer boxes being one of them, actually, as to their evolving usage and value compared to generative traffic generation, SEO generation, and paid ad generation to this. What we're getting early conversations with people is that people are seeing positive influences to their ad campaigns starting the year. Strangely, as you pay sensitivity to trends and directions, there's this huge nostalgic kickback 10 years now of where people are reminiscing thoughtfully as to what 10 years ago was like, which is, from most discussions, a defensive reflex to us as a society where today's tensions, today's issues are creating us to think back when they weren't issues. And that might breed itself into translating for travel, going back to old familiar places, rekindling fond memories, family unifications, friend unifications, social unifications from things from colleges and Smurf businesses and so forth, fraternities and sororities, and just clubs and groups that you were part of, religious travel in the sense of gathering together more for common interest. We might be seeing more of that as time goes on, but all said and done, general response to what's happening currently business-wise is that it's not bad. It's not amazingly great, but it's not as bad as it was potentially considered to be for first quarter. We're only toe dipped into it so far. We're only towards the end of the first month, but it's not where it was cataclysmic or, off a cliff kind of thing to this. So with all of that going on now, the big question is, what is it that, what are you doing to make yourself relevant to all of the people that are looking to see you and to engage with what content you have available. And fundamentally, there's two choices to what your process of your first message. What is your first line? Is it about you, branding, story, context? Or is it purchase? This is what I have to sell. This is what I'm enticing you to engage with. This is what I'm wanting you to acquire. It's kind of either side of a coin. And like I said, there are variations and nuances and tangents and subcategories of these, but these are the two highest categories of what a communicative ad is. What are you putting in front of them? Offers and rates and dates? Or are you putting them into concept and value as to what you represent? Now, I'm making this question relatively simplistic in the sense of I'm not giving you a context of when you're engaging or what you're engaging for. I'm simply saying that as of January of this year, and you are back into the market, so to speak, as to presenting yourself, is your first major effort about purchase. Just, okay, it's January, we're past the holidays. You need to be thinking about staying with us. And here's our rates and dates and availability. And here's the best things you should do to buy from us. These are our best offers, packages, and so forth and so on. Or are you cultivating a relationship that is about progressive, basically funnel tactics, going into the discovery phase in the hopes that it translates into an educational phase, awareness and discovery of more and more reasons why they want to acquire something from you, staying with you or eating with you or enjoying the amenities you have or what have you, to the moment of transaction. And I would say that, as always, we should listen before we talk. A lot about what we talked about last week is just exactly that, rather than cluttering the world with all these variations of what you think you want to say and seeing which one surfaces. Instead, being very succinct in what it is that you want to create as a message. Now, to get a better definition as to what choices you could make, because you've already made your choices. You're already running the ads you're running right now. If you're running spring break offer ads, you're doing it now. You should have been doing it in kind of December-ish, but it's hard because there's a lot of distractions with the holidays. But early on, pre-preparation, awareness of spring break and rates and offers and so forth can go back that far. Now, I know we have incredibly shortened booking windows. That's not turned into an exception anymore. That is the norm. But that's the ZMOT. That's the moment of transaction. That's not what lays up to that decision, which you have the most influence on. So you have those, and then you have other ads right now that might be cultivating the interest of what to do as people go through the weather that they're doing right now. We've had a very quick early winter this year in the continental United States, and from what I've seen in other areas of the world that have the winter cycle right now, Australia's in the version of that, obviously, South America as well, is that you have mitigating circumstances weather. We've had very negative travel news when it comes to interruptions, just in displacements and cancellations and what have you. And that has created a broader perspective of what type of travel do our guests want to do. And then, of course, we have the financial impact of the K economy. The people that have the money to do what they want to do are really still continuing with whatever they find of interest to do, where those that don't have the funds available, they're looking at the prioritization of their capability of doing travel and culling down what it is they have to travel for versus what they would prefer to have traveled for. Weddings, sad things like funerals and so forth, obviously, reunions, things like that, going back to the nostalgia conversation I mentioned earlier with that. So you have these influences on the current market of January 2026. And you have your known entity of people historically that have engaged with your product, people that have, as you break down your audiences, those that have done business with you, those that have looked at doing business with you, and those that have no idea who you are to do business with you. Those are the three bins. And again, to the topic of today, or conversation today, is what is your first ad message? Is it about you, or is it about it purchasing with you? Okay, brand or purchase. And you have to delineate what message is best contained to the purpose of who you're talking to. Right now, in the midst of winter and what will be this cold storm going through the domestic United States at this point, is there's going to be a lot of people that are going to really not be happy with the weather. And it's nice to consider warm places to go to, or what are they going to do when they get to vacation where they're not putting up and tolerating the bad weather. This is the dream phase. It's the discovery phase. It's the education phase where they may have already had interest in some places. Now they just want to know more about it because it's a nice welcome distraction to the realities of it being cold and snowy, and they're locked in and so forth. They might have other issues. It's a nice distraction, so they can begin to cultivate more awareness of what they might be interested in doing. That time frame reference right now, the predication first of one is the spring break. That's the first on the board, so to speak. There are holidays, there are events. Those are all things within your own particular market as drivers. But in generalities, as business cycles go, spring break is the next entity of effort for people that either are getting people to travel to them or through them for that process. And if you're putting out rates and dates right now because you already know that you already have historically been under consideration, people come to your market for that time period, then you might be more aggressively looking at just presenting what you're offering, you're purchasing. If you are trying to develop more of an interest in your destination, then you might be more relevant to securing your brand perspective, putting yourself in place for consideration, marketing-wise, where your messaging and communication is more about what you are to people that may not be familiar with you or have not considered you in times past. Or if you're new to your own market, in contrast to the people that usually get the lion's share of demand to your market, where you're trying to steal market share, or you at least get your fair share if you're new to the market. The idea that you're playing a longer hand of dialogue means you have a larger opportunity for frequency. I would say to moderate your decision between branding and purchasing, which is to which, one of the biggest considerations is the amount of time cycle that you have between what it is that you want them to get to about purchasing and how early you're introducing yourself to the conversation. The longer the timeline, the more opportunity you have to talk about yourself before you start telling them what it is you want them to acquire, to purchase with you. It also allows you, because of the timeline, the ability to stretch out your frequency, which is your ability to be in front of them without a persistence that's distracting. We've all been faced with ads that we touch a website or we go look for something and we're inundated on all of our variety of channels with a persistent ad from a place that we didn't even know existed or that we actually went to. And it stays and goes and goes and goes to the point of irritation. It's like, I'm not in a position to purchase right now, but you are frequency wise and persistence wise, because of that frequency, showing up in front of me all the time in the hopes that I will purchase with you. The logic on the other side of that, the purchase advertisement, is always giving them an available call to action. Be there, be present. So if they do make a choice, you're right there to make sure that you are an option for that choice. Understanding both sides of the logic doesn't mean that either side is correct. The correct side is the guest side. What they want to know, when they want to know, and how often they want to be reminded of it is theirs of the choosing. They're the one that are in control of what it is that they choose to do. We're just trying to figure out the best way to be in that conversation of the decision, the ZMOT, with them at that time. So right now, I would say based upon what it is you're selling, spring break, summer, whichever, the idea of what you offer, brand or purchase, is based on the time gap between now in January to the time that you're referring to. Spring break is still far enough that you should be able to talk about the value proposition of your brand without the persistence of pushing for a purchase. You always have a call to action in your branding, just in case it resonates when they first see it and they're great with it. I would also say that when I ask what your first ad is, it's about making sure that you know what your second ad is, and it should not be the same as your first ad. One of the banes that most marketing does is they set up a configuration of ads and they don't create a depth of ads. They create a variety of ads based upon channel, medium, call to action, so forth, whether it's a click to call, whether it's a video, whether it's an image, whether it's text, whether it's a testimonial, what have you. There's lots of ad variations, but the message stays the same. So as a consumer or potential guest, when I see an ad and then I engage with it, if I get to see the same ad again, it's flat. It's a reminder ad. Okay, yeah, same message, same things. You told me the same stuff. Maybe a different image, maybe a different call to action, but it's the same message. Buy now, this is the rate, this is the dates, or this is my pool, or this is my tennis court, or whatever, or pickleball court. But it's the same message. There's no continuity or continuance of the dialogue. That's a huge problem with our advertising strategies, whether it be brand or purchase, is you have to reflavor the next iteration of content. So if somebody engaged because of something you did branding wise about your property, let the next best message be an additional amount of information in piecemeal form that adds to the first message that they responded to. And again, the third ad is in addition to the second ad, which was the addition to the first ad. And you see the progression. Ad variation 1, variation being message, add variation 2, continuous to the message. This is when they begin to go down the funnel of engagement with you. And if you can progressively expand upon their knowledge of you, then and always make available call to action, obviously, but not hard sell the purchase point of it. Purchase point is where everyone understands what we're getting in the relationship for. They know that we're selling something, and we know that they're thinking about buying something. We understand the roles that each of us are playing. So make it valuable in that engagement with you. Progressively add more and more information as they progressively engage with you more and more. So your retargeting campaigns of those that have engaged with your website or those that have engaged with any other channel medium that you have, social or whatever, is a progression of content. So your first ad can be all about awareness, be it brand or purchase, but your second message should be a continuance of the first message. You say, well, how do you do that? Well, that's literally how you construct ads. As you create custom audiences of engagements with your ads, anybody that engages with your ad gets a different ad the next time they get engaged from the targeting that you've created. Think of it in incredibly simple terms. I responded to an ad. I looked and clicked on an ad. That puts me into a custom audience that doesn't get that same ad again. I get these ads from the custom audience of engagement from the ad. That audience has now these ads that it has. And again, if I engage with that ad, I'm now put into another subset of audiences, okay, which is technically being turned into a warm lead, that I get another series of it. And depending upon which ad I engaged with, because you have ad variations, that topic either gets extended or you take an alternative topic to see if that is more relevant. So in simple terms, if I responded to an ad of awareness, brand awareness of your property because of a destination I'm interested in, and then on the next ad, I'm being shown about the pickleball courts, and I engage with it, then at that point, showing them an ad variation about other things other than the pickleball courts will give us a sense of, did I also respond to that one? If I did, then I'm more in tune with that topic in relationship to the product, your product, than other topics. If I didn't, then send them another ad that's about the pool, making these topics up, to see if that is just in general, that the pickleball ad got their eye, but it wasn't the main reason why they're interested in us. And then when we enhanced it by showing another pickleball ad, yeah, no, it's not the pickleball thing. Then we show them an alternate ad if they didn't engage in the second version of the ad. And we make it about something else that may be similar in value to whatever the pickleball thing is, and see if they engage with that. And that's the variations that you guide them through. And that way you begin to isolate over time, and based on the frequency of their engagement, you get to understand what they're looking for by how they engage with you. So by the third or fourth ad variation, okay, you're pretty clear about what their interest levels are, that you could begin to talk about what values you can offer them, what purchase options you can offer them based on the engagement that you now have a history of engagement with. That's the avenue of this. But it all starts at the beginning, which is your first ad message for January 2026. What is it you're putting out there? Now, it's not just as easy as a flip of a coin. There are methods of doing this. First, I would say the biggest condition of what you offer, the first ad that you offer, is literally based on the time frame that you're talking about. Spring break being ahead of summer, so forth and so on. Maybe there's an event-driven thing earlier than that. So obviously, that has a stronger influence on the choice of brand or purchase for the initiative of the campaign for it. The second is, because of that time duration, the ability to know your frequency cycle and what channels you're creating these frequencies in, whether it's CRM, whether it's social, whether it's paid ads, what mediums are you, OTT, how is it you're conveying the messages, and by that being said, how much time do you have to get the message across between now and when? Okay. Those choices go through A/B testing. Let's put out ads that are related to purchase focused, and let's put out ads that are related to brand focus. See what the engagements are, knowing that the next level of communication from those engagements is a next step content piece. If they engage with a purchase and they didn't purchase, sending them the same ad doesn't do anything. It just makes a reminder. That's all it is. And if you do it too often, too fast, then it turns into an annoyance, spam. Instead, change what you're saying about the offer so that it gives you another consideration of why the offer is so good. Just giving them a rate and date and telling them that they get a double deluxe clean, blah, 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 whatever it is, there's no relevance to it. But if you then explain what the room type is like and what the value of that is in contrast to prices that are normally fixated on it, or other hotels that are in the area that are similar to price, but they're higher in price, or that yours is newer, or that you have a better view, or whatever it is, you to be able to give context to what the offer is. The offer is still in the message, in the ad, but now you're providing the value perspective of what the offer represents. I see this fail so many times where a hotel or resort or something will put out there, our deluxe super spiffy king overstuffed suite with triple pillows and opulent courtyard vista, okay, on sale for 50% off at $500. We as a tainted, public know that the value that you've assigned to it is arbitrary. The discount you've assigned to it is arbitrary. The adjectives you used are convoluted at best. The designation of the things that you're saying are so good about it are under the perspective of what we say about it, not what people say about it. Like, is the courtyard view really the view that everybody wants, or is it just the one you're saying is so special? The sales pitchiness of it. So you see how that gets degraded down as to what we do about that. But if we talk about, we have these great rooms, name it whatever we name it, the super deluxe queen suite room with vista. This is one of our premier, most demanded rooms. It has extra space or whatever it is like this. It's on sale for this. A huge discount compared to what we normally charge. You can refer to it if you want to, whatever. But then in the next message, if I engaged with that to see what that really meant, talk about the value proposition of the offer itself. Why is this room so special? More than the adjectives overused that we use, more than the perceived values that we've implied. Be more meaty about what it is that the value of the purchase actually represents. This continuance ad allows people to perceive what we want them to perceive about what it is that we're truly trying to offer them as a purchase choice. Now, as I said before, approaching this from an A/B testing where we do brands and we do purchase ads and we see the engagement of it is the listening component with our guests. By putting these variances out, we don't just assume we know the right answer. We just don't assume that what we did last year is the same thing we should assume this year. It gives us a chance to listen to see what the engagement types are and what our guests want to get. Maybe this year, given a variety of circumstances, people are wanting to become better educated about what we are before they start deciding what to purchase, what we're offering. So the brand might work better. Others are very clear on what it is that they want. They don't need to be told more about what we are and really want to get to the point of what we have to offer so they can make a cognitive choice as to their purchase decision. They're going to lean towards the purchase side. That will show up in the engagement and value of the ad campaigns. Once that's done, then as we begin to segment the engagements from those ads as to which one is working the way it is, we begin to isolate out the real causes of why those ads are working better. The brand ones might work better because of the way we rephrased our location. or it might be because of the way we phrased our amenities. And those variances means that audiences get developed based on, well, let's send out these ads about our amenities, and let's send out these ads, the next step ads, for those who engaged with our first ad, about our location. And we see from those engagements which was a more tangible value that people were seeing. And then we take that and we go to the next step with that one that says, okay, so it was about our amenities. Let's talk about maybe some featureability of consumer feedback sentiment about the enjoyment of our amenities. Perhaps there's discussion as to the quality of our amenities, if it's food or whether it's a spa or whether it's golf or whatever else like this. Talk about more of it to solidify the interest that we think that ad engagement created. Try it on other channels to see maybe if they're engaged with our amenities, perhaps if we can get them connected to our OTT, they have more visualization. We have more opportunity in that channel to show more of what our amenities are like to endear them to the idea of enjoying them. Or if it's location, get my point. So this is the pathways of choosing how your first ad campaigns run between brand and purchase. And as you pursue those channels, you pursue the value of the segmentations that those channels create. Now, in context, what you're selling also dictates what your first ad will be. Picture if you're camping, RV camping. At this point of it, it's the middle of winter. Most of the people you might be engaging with for camping, this is just not the time of year that they do it, okay? But they're thinking about what they want to do when spring thaw, summertime, or what have you. There's an inversion to this process because there's an inversion as to how they get to you. With camping, a lot of times, not all the time, there's always exceptions, a lot of times the mode of travel has already been designated. They're driving. Very few times do they actually travel, then camp. Those are usually long distance RVing and so forth. And that does happen, and there's huge audiences for them. So please pick this with a grain of salt as to which context I'm referring to. I'm talking about the ones that are saying, I'm going to be hopping into my RV, or I'm renting an RV, and we're taking a trip to a campground. You might find that the best first step in conversation is the cost. This is the value cost, because the first consideration of RVing or camping and so forth is full budget, with gas prices and food costs and things like this having different context to other modes of travel. Then it's about what it is that you cost to determine whether you are interested in knowing more about what you are. And that goes to the whole conversation we're having. Know your guest to know what usually is the consideration process. If you have certain types of RV rigs, there's limitations as to which camps can and can't have you. If you're too old of an RV, some camps don't want you in because you don't look all that good, and they don't want that in there. They don't want 1970s Winnebago banging in. And so they exclude older RVs. Sounds weird, but it happens. By the same token, you might have a big old Class A dual axle back bus size, the size of Manhattan, and there's very limited slips. So the first thing that those travelers are interested in is availability and cost. Cost being lesser at the point because they bought such a big rig, they know it's going to cost more anyway, but just whether there's availability, because they have a restriction as to what they can and can't get into. Then for others that actually do more of a camping, where it might be tents and so forth, it might be about the availability. So it's really about, do you have space that fits me at a price that fits my model of what I'm planning on doing? That might be the first introduction. They know they want to go to a certain area, but because they're RVing it, the latitude of their choices is much broader, unless there's a very specific reason why they want to be in a very specific place at a very specific time. There's always exceptions. And there's always ways to understand those exceptions in your marketing strategy. Very few times do you get whimsically able to just say, you should come to Louisiana and stay at our glam resort RV park, because when was the last time you were in Louisiana, and there's so many cool things around us and so forth. There's a place for that. Glamping, there's a place for that. And you can talk aspirationally about it, going, wow, this is great. A lot of better RV camps now have tiny homes. So strangely enough, people want to go glamping at an RV park in a tiny home simply because they don't want to be in a hotel or somebody else's home in an VRBO or Airbnb. They don't want to lug the trailer, hook up the trailer, drive the trailer, but they want the effect of it. There's RV camps that have RVs that are permanently in a spot that are rented out like cabins, so people can have the RV experience in an RV park in a camp environment, but without all of the other stuff that requires you to do it by driving and towing it or whatever, and hooking it up and doing all the things that you do that you may be intimidated in doing. You just want the benefit of enjoyment of doing those kind of travel. There's so many variations to these things, but the point of bringing them up for is that your point of contact dialogue is very much about where do you start the conversation. And that conversation comes from knowing your guests as to what you need to tell them to initially engage with them. Do they need to be aware that you're in the affordability range for them? Because nothing worse, and we do this even with hotels and resorts, is they get sold on this amazing idea of being with you, and then they go to look at the inventory that you have available for the dates that they might be considering, and they get sticker shock. And as much as they loved everything that brought them there to your site, and much as they loved everything you said about yourself, and truly were interested in enjoying all of it, it's just not in the realm of their reality. So with the type of travel and the reason for travel, those dictate what you create as your initial message. And is it about what you are as a brand? Because for them to have discovered you, they already assume that they're in the realm of possibility with you. So they're just refining their interest in you. Or do they need to be told upfront, this is our price points. If this is too high or reasonable for you, then we can continue the conversation or not. That whole process, as the example with camping, goes into the context of what you're talking about when you're talking about as to how you have to talk about it. Do I have to get cleared up with you first off that, these are our qualifiers. We have pallets that are big enough for your vehicle or not, or the type of pallet that you're interested in, or the availability of the pallet you're interested in. That we're at a price point that fits into the scope of what you're interested in, and we're in the proximity, which is already the reason why you're looking at us probably, of what it is you want to do in our area. Once that gets met, they're all then about learning more about what you have to offer. Do you have kayaks in your own fish pond? Do you have, a general store so I don't have to go over and worry about preloading before I come into the RV park with groceries and so forth? Is there community activities? Is it a family-oriented place, or is it more of an adult-oriented place? Is there diversity to this? Is there proximity to things? On and on and on and on. So what your first message is dependent upon whom you're talking to, for when you're talking to them for, and to what level of information they need to understand. Now, agencies, and again, this sounds like I'm poo-pooing on the concept, approach it very statically. Every agency approaches it from the same pattern, the same SOP, standard operating procedure. And then good agencies adaptively change and go ahead. And great agencies actually listen first and customize it to what they hear. But that's how it goes. So you have three agency levels. You have the standard, the good, and the great. Standard is they come in, this is what they do. They get access to your ad accounts. They immediately turn into two categories of brand and non-branded. Brand's the easiest one. They want to make sure that they identify completely about what you are, where you are, who you are. Then they do non-branded. They want to tackle all the things that you're related to, value to, and associated with. Very generic, very straight up. They do the Google ads. They may or may not do Bing ads, but let's just say they do Google ads. They may or may not create custom audiences for next generational advertisement. Most times they don't. They just standardize it. They'll create five. They'll create 5 ads in each ad group. Okay. Click to call, image, video, content, and text. Put a few dynamic fields to use keywords associated with the discovery in this SEO process. They'll turn over and look at your website. They'll see whether or not you have content relevant to what you are. If there's anything that's broken, anything that could be immediately fixed on a very simple basis, H1s and H tags and hrefs and so forth, broken things, broken links. They'll try to build up a link building campaign to make sure that you're associated with the things that are more valuable to your market, if they're good or average, I guess you even say. They'll look at your social, get access to your account. They'll look at the frequency of your postings, the context of your postings, the engagement of your postings beyond just the likes, but the actual comments and shares. They'll try to create some sort of calendar associated with things that they should be talking or having you talk about. And they'll see whether or not you're actively involved with it, whether there's somebody at your property that would be willing to be a contributor to those things from a first person perspective. If not, they'll generate a tremendous amount of evergreen content associated with just generalities of your hotel or resort or camp or whatever in proximity to the things that can be discussed. They'll lay that schedule out. They'll prove with you what their imaging and so forth. They'll see what image inventory that you have, see whether it can be improved upon or added upon. And that's how it usually starts. That's what usually goes on. And then after an evaluative process of 30 to 90 days, they might begin to change the ad categorizations they have to be more related to seasonality and holidays, which are the easy first step. They might be progressive enough to actually look at heavy driven events to see whether or not there's a need to advertise them. If they're collectively working with you closely, they'll begin to ask those questions. What's the lead time for these events so that we have the ads in place for the audiences that are becoming to you for that event? That now begins to push you into the good agency category. Good agencies will look at expanding the ad variations, but they don't really expand much of the channel variations unless they have some service profile that they're heavy into OTT, so they're going to have to push you onto the OTT or whatever else they want to feature ability with you on that. They'll create monthly metrics to show you volume of traffic, the people that engaged from that volume of traffic, and the people that converted from that volume of traffic, typical funnel analytics, typical stuff of what pages were seen more often, which channels were producing what revenues. These are the generic things. Great agencies will go in and listen to what it is that you've done, listen to what it is that you say you're good at, and work around what you need at the moment that they're brought on board to look and see how quickly they can add to what's imminent. This is happening in a very short window. We're already behind most of our comp set on advertising this. Can we do something about this now? In parallel to all the things I just mentioned. They'll look at the specificities of what they can improve upon immediately by listening and seeing what you're doing. They will go in and not try to change it to their format, but to add to the format you're already running, good or bad, what needs to happen, and then improve upon what you've been doing better with how they know better to do it. How well can they increase your content? How well can they increase your voice on channels? How well can they get better at creating your entity to represent itself better on channels? That's what great agencies do. So all of that comes out of our topic today of what is your first ad message, brand or purchase? Because this is the bottom of the hill. This is looking up and saying, I'm here. My ads are running. What are those ads? What is it I'm saying about myself? Am I just selling something? Or am I telling people about me so that they want to buy something from me? And who am I talking to for what reason and how far ahead? And in what channels do I get to do that? And how do I progressively enhance the conversation with progressive ads that add and build upon each other as they begin to engage more and more? This is the basic stuff that you do. This is the dust yourself off from previous 2025. Get your head back into the game. Look at what it is that you're doing, not just allow it to happen, and to improve upon it by listening to what your guests are engaging with. And from that, determine what it is you have to say in return. So I think you covered it well for the points I wanted to make for this. It is a progression of conversations. Like I said, last week's discussion was about do less, more better, which was don't overflow with creative ideas that you're never going to get to and dilutes the core things that you should be doing persistently on. This is the building on that. Now that we are doing the things we should be doing on, what are those things? How are you really, a trip of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, that old analogy. Same too with this. Your whole year is in front of us. It's not starting out as bad as it was anticipated. It's not starting as great as it probably could have been. It's doing well. There is a shift in how people are engaging with us. There's channels of opportunity that we're just now beginning to understand and exercise better on. You have shiny new budgets. You have shiny new optimism as to how you're going to approach these things. You're looking at ways to adaptively include what it is that's adaptively changed in the market. And AI is the biggest thing that I want to speak about when it comes to that. And to be good at it and not be tired at it, not to be resentful of having to tackle the world or feel like you gotta, how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. Don't look at it as an arduous task. This is a creatively wonderful opportunity. This is an amazing time that we have these tools that we didn't have before. I think back, even if it was 10 years ago, nostalgically, okay, as to what we were capable of doing compared to what we're capable of doing now. Some things were easier then because they're in the rudimentary phases and they're much more advanced now and more complex. People are getting better at doing these things. You're finding stronger and stronger competition in your market because before, if you were the first to adopt something and do it well, you could outpace your comp set because you were the only one in the market doing it. Well, guess what? Everybody bought new sneakers. They're running just as fast as you with your new sneakers now. And so that even playing field means that you have to even be better than what you were better at before. And you have to find other ways to get good. Maybe you need to find a spiffy, speed slick tracksuit and they don't have one yet. Whatever it is, metaphorically, it's to continually innovate yourself to doing what it is that's the most helpful for you. To discard the things that are distractions and are not as productive as they need to be. You need to have established KPI thresholds to make sure that nothing below that line gets a lot of attention or resources. Doesn't mean it's a bad idea, just could be a timing thing. Put it on a shelf. You can always reconsider it later for a different circumstance, but right now it's not doing what we needed to do at a threshold minimum. Having good analytics to know what those threshold minimums are and KPIs and engagement is critical. Understanding your data is critical. Knowing what data to look at is critical. All of those things require your consistent attention. This isn't an end of the month review of what happened for the month. This is a persistent engagement with what you're doing to understand that it's doing what you expected it to do, and if not, what adjustments you have to make. So I will get off my pulpit of highfalutedness of doing it right and leave you to think about the process of where we're starting this year, what resources we have, the capabilities we're having to do, and the increased level of competitive awareness that we now have. Comp set's just as smart as you. And if they're not, good for you. And if you're not the smartest one in it, you know what? As they say, this is the best place that nothing else is but to go up. You have a great place to start to make a better story. So if you're the leader of your market, you're going to have to keep thinking innovatively to keep that margin. You can always join us at the hospitalitymarketing.club. We have a peer level group, the journeyman level, where you have to be a hospitality marketer to join. You go to the website, hospitalitymarketing.club, put your email in, I send you a quiz to validate that you are a hospitality marketing person. Join our peer level group and you can pick whichever categories of interest you're wanting to engage with, people you want to talk to about stuff. It's a great shorthand way of talking through problems without having to start from the beginning of time to explain where you're at in the decision process of the problem that you have. You get to talk to people that completely empathize with what perspective you're already looking at and ways to be helpful, or at least an alternative opinion for you to consider. It's a great club for that. If you're catching us on our TV channel, thank you so much for catching us on our TV channel. We're in 209 countries broadcasting. We retranslate the show into 11 languages, and we recast the show at 11:30 a.m. Sydney, Australian time, and 11:30 a.m. London time for our APAC and EU Mideast friends on Wednesdays. We also rebroadcast or potentially we put new shows on every time for hospitalityradio.com. We're in 39 countries with that. Variety of context. It's a linear program. It won't show after another kind of thing. Our new show always airs at 1 o'clock the next day, PM, Eastern time. And then it recycles back to land on better time cycles for all the time zones that we have. So you get it at 4 a.m. Eastern time, but it's actually 1 o'clock PM Malaysian time and so forth. It is with the TV channel. We also simulcast, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. For Twitch, for those that use Twitch for the media platform, this allows, we have a lot of corporate relationships and associations, industry associations and so forth that simulcast our show on their pages and on their channels in YouTube. We thank them so much for that support to do that. If you have any comments or topics that you think would be of interest or wish to give feedback as to what we do and talk about, you can reach me at Lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. I answer each and every email related to that. And also, if you want to do an audio feedback, I always have a new question of the week and a means of audio feedback at htm.news/talkback. You can go in and speak your mind and then tell me whether or not I have permission to refer to it or refer to you by name or just take the idea or suggestion. So you can do that as well. So with that, my name is Lauren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time and look forward to talking to you all next week.